recording on the CURBS web page under workshops. Hi, Valerie. How are you? How are you? Okay, before I go to the first slide, I want to tell you that you guys all were, I want to say two things. First of all, I know there's some entering freshmen in this group and then older. This is fantastic because it's never too early to plan for this, because by the time you apply, you want all the pieces ready to go in your resume. You don't want to come in as a second semester junior applying and have to backtrack. So I applaud you for it's never too soon to do this, but also you guys are all very good at applying to undergraduate school. You figured it out, you applied, you got into probably more than one place, but you made the smart choice and came to UF. I want to tell you, everything you learned about how to apply to undergraduate is no good now. It will not help you get into graduate school, okay? So you're going to start to learn all over again. This is a totally different process. Now we'll go to the first one. Okay, now I always tell students that you get the degree you need for the job you want. So how do you figure that out? I will tell you my story. I was in a job, I knew what I wanted to do for a living. I was probably mid-20s. I was already out of undergraduate. And I met a lady who was running an education program for a museum, a science museum. That's what I wanted to do. And so I was at some social event with her and I went up to her. I did not know her. I said, hi, I want to be you when I'm 40. So what do I need to do? Do I need a PhD? And she said, yeah, you do. She said, it doesn't mean you know anymore, but it opens the doors. So I encourage all of you, when you're deciding what you want, is identify the person you want to be. When I say 30, because 40 sounds too old to you guys, it sounds like retirement age, right? So you know, that's one way to start figuring out for the job you want, what degrees do you need? Now, my favorite story is a student who says, oh, you know, so-and-so told me that I don't want a PhD because I'd be overqualified. And I said, well, what degree does that person who told you that have? A master's. I went, oh, why would you listen to them? They already chose or was unsuccessful to not get a PhD. So that's not who you get your advice from. You get advice from the PhD in the field you want to go in. Now I'll tell you in engineering. We used to say we don't use the M word in my office, which is master's, okay? I have softened a bit on that because many of our programs have what's called a 4-1. And by staying one extra year, you can graduate with a master's. Bright Future still carries through. And by the time you're a senior, you're taking graduate courses. And you guys, many of you have so many credits, this is a good option for you, okay? But in engineering, if you get a master's, you're gonna have a great job, good salary, and be working for the PhD, okay? So if you want, and you're gonna be applying what the PhD tells you. The PhD is different from an MD, and I'm sorry, Valerie, I'm telling you this, but don't take it personally, okay? MDs are applying the knowledge that PhDs have figured out, okay? MDs, lawyers, they're applying no knowledge. What a PhD is discovering new knowledge. Everybody with a PhD has found out one thing unknown to the world before they did it. Might be a little tiny thing. It might be some insect that only lives in Antarctica, but it's a new thing, all right? So the PhD in an engineering company is in R&D and has the master's people working for them, all right? But spend some time thinking about, you know, what do you want to be doing and what degree do you need? There are some civil engineering masters can sometimes be a terminal degree. There are some fields, chemistry doesn't even have a master's because it makes no sense. So what would you do with that? So just for your field, that whatever field you're in, think about, you know, do I want to be the boss? Well, you want a PhD. Do I want to, you know, be doing R&D and learning new things and helping people apply it? That's the PhD level. And it may or may not be for you. I will tell you that in Gainesville, this is hard to remember because when you go to Publix, every other person pushing a cart has a PhD in something, okay? But in the world, I should have made this a poll, but I didn't. In the world, only 2% of the population has a PhD, all right? So it's a very, really small group. It's just that since we hang out together, we look like more, okay? So spend some time thinking about, don't close the door off to a PhD. Now, I think, let's see what the next one says. Next slide, maybe. Oh yeah, here's the important part. Okay, here's the other cool secret that sometimes they don't tell you. Not in every case, but in the vast majority of cases, if you are in a master's program, you pay for it, okay? You pay for the tuition, the whole 9 yards, your housing, your food, and all that. Now, do not be the person that is not confident. I have students that are not confident. They say, well, I'm gonna get a master's and then see. Don't do that. Have the confidence to just blurt out, I want a PhD, all right? So don't think, and in most fields, you go from a bachelor's into a PhD program. You do not have to get a master's first. Now, there are some exceptions to this, depending on the field you're in, but also sometimes you get accepted to a PhD program, and after 2 years, you get a master's along the way, all right? But when you apply for a PhD program, they treat you very differently, more seriously. You are more valuable to them. And because of that, PhD programs will pay you. Now, in STEM, it's different than non-STEM, but in STEM, for example, they will, I don't know, chemistry, physics, they're going to pay you enough money as a stipend. It could be 25K, it could be 28K to pay your rent, your food, your car, movies, whatever you do, and give you free tuition. In non-STEM, the amount you get, stipend is going to be lower probably, but you still get free tuition. And this is because you are going to spend the next 5 years, if you're coming out of bachelor's, maybe 6, making the university and the faculty member look good. You are developing new knowledge and they get credit for you. So you're going to be there long enough to be valuable enough that they actually invest in you. I would never let a student go to a PhD program that they aren't paying you to do. Okay, so that's another major difference between PhD and masters. Most masters, not all, you pay for a PhD, you don't go unless they're going to pay you not only a stipend, but give you free tuition. And that's really valuable. So that's a big important difference as well. All right, let's see what the next slide says. Oh yeah, so this is what I started at the beginning. You basically, everything you learned at undergrad doesn't work, because in undergraduate, you applied to the University of Florida and the University of Florida admissions decided, could you get in? It's not that way in graduate school. The reason I said a two-pronged approach is because the department that you're applying to go into is the decision point. All right, the graduate, you're applying, there's two pathways. The first pathway is, yes, you apply to the graduate school, you got to meet their requirements, but the graduate school basically just signs off and says, yes, this person is eligible. But the department is the decider. So you can meet the requirements for the university and still not get in if the department doesn't want you. So simultaneous to applying for the university, you are also doing a whole bunch of things to apply and get that decision in your favor in the department. So this is why it's very different. You're applying to, so let's say, you know, so back in the old days, UF had, GRE scores were different, and UF had a GRE score requirement of 1,000, okay? But the same year that you could get into UF as 1,000, if you looked on the webpage of the University of Florida, it said 1,000. In ChemE, you had to have a 1,200 to get in a master's and a 1,400 to get in. So the importance, turn off your mic if you can. So the importance, it's not as important to know what is the university GRE requirement, it's what is the department's average. Because that's where the deciding is, and that's where you'll know if you're competitive. So again, two-pronged approach, but the really decision makers are sitting in that department that you're trying to apply to. Okay, so let's see what the next one is. Okay. So now we got a little Google. Wait a minute. Okay, so we're going to send you a little Google survey that there are different reasons you could choose where you apply. So go ahead and pick what you think is the reason, you know, when you're picking where to apply to. What reason? Can they choose more than one, Allie, or just one?
I believe just one.
Okay, pick the top one you think. All right, we'll give you a minute, and then Allie will show us the results with any luck at all. So you got a whole bunch of choices there that I've heard from people over the years. Potential reasons to pick where you're going to apply.
And I'm sorry, we picking the one that we think you got most often?
No, the one you think is most important.
Thanks.
Yeah, the one that will guide you when you, okay, before I answer it, the one you think is going to guide you, okay, in your selection. So we'll give you a minute. And Allie, as soon as you see that it's, can you see the number of responses, Allie?
Yes, I'm having some technical difficulties on my end. Give me just a moment.
Oh, okay. So here are the answers that I had given you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We'll see what we can figure out. Maybe.
So sorry.
Okay, let's just go back to the slide.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm trying.
And that's okay. That's okay.
You're doing great, Allie. You're a rock star.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. So we can just go back to the slide.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Zoom is not being the most cooperative.
Don't worry. Thanks for adapting this workshop in the first place. It's very informative.
Hey, it's the first time in 15 years I made a slideshow. I want points for that.
You get brownie points, Dr. Donnelly.
I think so. All right, while Ellie's trying to figure out how to put the slides back up, you know how to do that reaction on your screen. If you think, you know, the part of the country, the climate is important, do a thumbs up. Oh, not too many people jumping on that big. Few, okay. All right, Suthrika. Okay. All right. Most of the choices were obvious no ones. You know, makes no sense, right? Although I've heard them. Oh,
There we go.
Oh, way to go. All right. So biggest was level of research 16. What's orange, yellow? Near family. Oh, that's interesting. And climate. And some of you people actually voted for the beach and skiing, which I find hilarious. Okay. Oh, wait, green. We have two kinds of green.
I believe the higher one is level of research.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now if we could go back to the slide, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. So the answer is none of the above here. Okay. Keep going. Oh, no, go back a minute.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the one I hear, the ones, I don't buy any of those. And I'm going to start with climate because that's the one I hear a lot. Oh, I just, you know, don't want to go where it's cold. If you're going to go to a graduate program, you want to go to the best place for you that will take you. And your graduate program should take you 5 or 6 years after bachelor's, maybe shorter if you have a master's, okay? If the best place for you to get what you need happens to be in Idaho, then you buy a good coat and you go to Idaho because you're only going to be there for 5, 6 years and then you can move south again if you're cold, all right? So comfort level. What happens to really good students is a UF faculty, I'm being recorded. A UF faculty will decide they want you and they will try really hard to keep you, all right? I want you to go to the best place in the country that you can get into for your field, and that's often not UF, all right? I really am down on you staying at the same institution for your graduate degree, and in fact, the better departments will not take you because they also think you should go somewhere else. You learn a different environment, a different intellectual environment, different ideas. You get out of your comfort zone sometimes. That's all really important. So I have only once, one student looked at me and said, sadly, the best place in the country for her is here. And she actually didn't want to stay, but she did because it was the best place. If you are rooted in place, sometimes people have to make a choice for that reason. So that can be a reasonable reason. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I'm not sure why. Keep clicking and see what happens next. Oh yeah, okay. So given that we're going to apply to the best place you can get into for what you want, how do you figure out what that is? One is, most of you, by the time you're doing this, have already done research. And you maybe are familiar with some faculty. You pick their brains. Let's say you're working with somebody who's a linguistics expert in bilingualism. Then you say, hey, I'm going to go to get a PhD in this. Where do you recommend? You know, where are your colleagues? So that's a really good place to start, all right? A lot of people go to US News and World Report and look up, okay, who are the top 10, the top tier in my field, all right? I usually tell students to pick some of the top 10, shoot for it, and then pick some in the middle tier too. You don't just put all your eggs in one basket. But my favorite thing to do are the journals. I'm convinced there's a journal for everything. So let's say you're studying worm ecology. I bet somewhere there's a journal of worm ecology, okay? So what you do is, no matter what your field is, find out where does your mentor publish. There's several tiers of publications. There's the publications that your faculty would love to get in, but don't always, like the best, the ones considered best. And then there's a second tier. So you want to find out where is your faculty publishing and which one, ask them, what's the journal that you consider the Cadillac of your field? And then you go back 6 months or maybe a year, and you look at the table of contents and you look at every single title. And if somebody's doing something cool with worms, you read the title and you go, wow, that's cool. You put them on your list. Then you keep going and you end up with a list of people doing cool things to worms or for worms or with worms, right? Then you look and see who are they and where are they? This is a way to identify who's publishing, who's actively researching in your field, and they might be in Illinois and you might not have otherwise identified them. When somebody's publishing, that's an indication of the health of the research program, okay? So if they don't have any money, they're not doing a lot of research, then they're not publishing. So if you find the same name coming up over and over again in these journals of your interest, your field, then you start identifying, hey, these must be the top 5 people because these are the people who are publishing a lot. And you might discover, that somebody's in Iowa. Who knew, right? So you ask your mentors, you go back and check and look and see what US News says, but don't just do that. Do some serious mining. The other really cool way that I didn't put on the slide is if you can get yourself, every faculty member also goes to one conference a year that they consider as the conference. American Society of Chemical Engineers. 10,000 people show up, all right? If you can get yourself to one of those conferences, what you do is ahead of time, they give you a conference guide. And again, you spend a very long time looking through all the presentations and putting a star on every single one that looks really cool to you, all right? Then when you then you get yourself to that conference, you get yourself a little business card printed up and copies of your resume, then you spend most of your time you go to the talks on the people that you find fascinating, but what you're really doing is networking and introducing yourself to all these people that you might apply to work for, all right? Because then when you're following, we say, hey, I met you at the AICHE conference. They're not gonna remember you. Maybe they will, but it doesn't matter. Because you're going to say, hey, I attended your talk, it was really cool. So if you can get yourself to one of those conferences, and even if you're like a rising junior, getting to those, some people actually spy out somebody who's a rising junior that in 2 years, I'm going to recruit them for my graduate program. So that's why I'm saying it's never too early to start looking at who you might be interested in working with, figuring out a way to get your face in front of them if you can. In this world, it's all, you know, Zoom conferences, but you could still sign up and attend, and you use that conference list as a shopping list, just like you use the journal table of contents as a shopping list. Okay, so if I think we have a chat, so I think if you have, I'm giving you a lot. If you have a question, Allie, can you monitor the chat?
Yes, ma'am. The only thing that's come up recently was Erin made a great point that there are also a lot of ways to get involved on Twitter with different labs. A lot of labs nowadays have pages where they'll post things about their research and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And so as you go, if you have a question, Allie, you read it. You know, at the moment I'm seeing humans and not chat. So you can stop me if there's a question.
Yes, ma'am. I'll let you know if one comes up.
So far we have, you know, which degree to pick, and then we have applying to department versus the university, and then where to apply. So let's see what's next. Okay, interesting thing going on in the world right now is that some schools are dropping GRE. Okay, GRE is like SAT for going to graduate school. If you just graduate record exam, it's got sections like, you know, verbal and math, but in the biological sciences, I've noticed that they are taking the lead and dropping the requirement. I think engineering is still requiring it. In the age of COVID, I don't know what they're doing. So depending on your field, you want to investigate, am I going to need a GRE? If you're not sure, I would take it so you had it. And let me tell you about taking the GRE. You do, even if you decide I don't really understand the whole gap year thing, but let's say you decide you might apply to graduate school after a year or two doing something else, I don't know, okay? You will send me an email thanking me if you do what I tell you. And what I'm telling you is, you take the GRE before you graduate from undergraduate, okay? And this is why. As you walk across the stage to get that diploma, half of what you learn pours out of your ears, okay? And a year later, when you have to sit down to take that GRE, you're going to kick yourself. But the GREs are good for, I believe, 3 years. So you want to get it in the can. If you think you're going to have to, in the next 2-3 years, you want to have it in the can because it's so much easier to take it when you're still a student and used to doing that than when you're grown up out in the world and doing more interesting things. Allie, did everybody see that about UF?
I'm not sure. Would you like me to read it? It should be available to everyone in the chat.
Okay, it says UF is waiving the GRE for the next few semesters. Would it be a good idea to send in this course? Well, so UF isn't where you're going to go if I have anything to say about it. So I would take it if you think you might, and thank you for clarifying. I was trying to be conservative because I couldn't remember if it was 3 or 5. So I wanted to err on the caution and said 3. So yeah, if you are a junior, take it. Summer between junior and senior years when you would take it. If you're a freshman, wait and see, because it's too soon now anyway. So, but when you get to where I don't know, if you're a rising junior, I would start looking around to where I might want to apply and sort of find out what people are doing about GREs. Anyway, yeah. So here's the thing about GREs and GPA. Remember I told you that when you apply to the University of Florida, on their graduate school webpage, it will say the averaging entering GRE score is whatever, and the average entering GPA. And remember I told you those are meaningless, right? What you have to do is be a sleuth and find out for the specific department that you are interested in, what is the average entering GRE and GPA, okay? So you call up the person. Every department has 2 kinds of graduate coordinators. This is really important. They always have a very knowledgeable administrative assistant graduate coordinator who doesn't have a PhD generally. So they're just telling you what they were told. But usually there's a PhD faculty member who's a graduate course. You want to find that person and you want to ask that person for your department in, world history, what's the average GRE and GPA? Now, remember, average half or below, right? So it doesn't mean you don't apply, but it gives you an idea on how competitive you are, okay? Letters, rec letter. Oh, this is why I love talking
Dr. John,
pardon?
really quickly, we have a question from Emily asking, as a senior, what is the latest you would recommend taking the GRE?
Like starting your senior year. What's the date today? Like now.
August 13th.
Now I think you got lucky. Ordinarily, I would tell you to have taken it this summer, but given COVID and given that it's likely to be waived, I would take it at I don't even know if they're offering it right now, right?
They're offering it via Zoom right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would take it at the earliest you're comfortable doing it, because I think you're going to be able to, you're a little late, but given COVID, I think you can slide it and not have an issue. Okay. And there's a zillion GRE books and, free prep tests and stuff like that. And everybody, anybody who's older than you who's taken it, he passes the books along. Here's my other rule about GRE. And I understand there's a financial cost, not to mention mental strain, right? If you are, doing really well in school and you test well and you know that, I kind of tell students, if you can afford it, take it cold and see how you do. Because then after you get your scores, you say, man, I really aced the English and I screwed the math. Then at least when you study, you'll know what to study and you won't waste your time studying stuff you don't need. Now, then you can target your studying and take it again. Now, you should be twice, they won't take your best of each. Like if you do really well in English and screw to math, and then you take it again and your English goes down, but your math goes up, they're not going to take your best English and your best math in one sitting, okay? So you're going to have to check in specific departments of the masters to see if it's waived or not. Every school is going to be different, and every, I don't want to say yes, they're going to be waived. It just depends on the university. I'm guessing they're going to be waived, but I would check, okay? So here's the thing about rec letters. And this is why I like talking to freshmen. By the time you're applying, you should have 3 people that can say something good about you. And here, I don't think I made a slide about this. I swear to God, I used to run summer REUs. I have gotten rec letters from their mother's best friend. Don't do that. I've gotten rec letters from their pastors. Don't do that. All right. Here's a really lousy rec letter. Valerie was in my class and got an A. That's a bad rec letter. What you have to have are people who graduate schools are looking for, are you smart? Do you show up? Diligent? Are you motivated? Have you thought this decision out carefully? Do you ask good questions? Do you become independent on a project? You have to have people who can say this about you. And this is one of the wonderful things about your research mentor, because your research mentor should be in a position to say those things about you. Now, sometimes undergraduates get involved in a lab and in a lab science, and they spend more time being trained and talking to the graduate student. That's okay, but guess what? You don't want a letter of rec from, Mr. Smith. You want it from Dr. Smith, right? So sometimes students get so comfortable, they're a little intimidated by the faculty mentor, so they spend all their time talking to the graduate student. You got to make sure that you're meeting with that regularly with the faculty mentor, so that at the end of the day, they can write that letter for you. Now, sometimes in a lab, there's a postdoc. Now, a postdoc is, like the word implies, the person has a PhD. It's kind of halfway house between graduate school and the real world, okay? A postdoc can write a good letter because they're Dr. So-and-so, okay? But you have to, I've actually had a student that came up to me and said, I'm going to take 2 of your reading classes because I'm going to apply to medical school and I need a letter from one non-technical person, and will you be it? So we took 2 classes. So I could actually write a letter and say, hey, I've known this guy for a year, and I could say some things, because they also look for communication skills, teamwork, and that's the kind of stuff I can speak to. So you should cultivate people who you feel like down the road can write that letter for you, and write one that could say something about you besides they got an A in my class, because you know what? A lot of people got an A in the class. So that's sometimes the hardest for students to come up with those 3 people. So if you don't already know 3, now's the time to walk up to somebody. Well, you can't anymore. Email them, Zoom them, say, would you be willing to mentor me and meet with me once a semester to talk about my career goals? Okay. That's one way. And you have that meeting every semester and you talk to them, or maybe a little more often if you're older and the letters are coming quicker. So, and then when you ask somebody to write a rec letter, after they say yes, first of all, you don't ask them the day before it's due. Okay, I've had that experience before. You want to give them enough time. And then I've actually had students give me a spreadsheet that tells me who we're applying to and when they're due. You send, this is after the person has said yes, by the way. And then the student has to send me the resume and their personal statement, because then I can actually write a letter that makes it sound like I know something about this person, okay? And then I personally tell students to bother me. When I finally do the letter, I send the student an email, says, okay, I did it. And I tell them, if you have not gotten that from me and it's due, and it's coming up on a due date, then bug me. So don't assume that your faculty, you can keep track with in your application process and make sure. And if you're missing a letter, go and ask, right? And say, hey, the due date's Friday, it's Thursday. Are you gonna be able to do it, right? So think it through and do. So I'm curious. Well, it's too hard to check. I hope that you all, well, some of you are just starting, you don't, but just know that you need to make sure you have 3. And then the personal statement, no matter what you apply for, you're going to have to write something. And the nice part is much of this is something you can tailor and tweak for different applications. Everyone's going to ask you something a little different. And so Valerie, okay, very funny. Okay, so personal statement. Graduate schools are not only looking for somebody who's smart, all right, and wants to do the research, but they're also looking for why you. Why should they pick you? What makes you different? This is where you can tell your story. And your story should include, how is it you decided that what you really wanted to spend your life doing is studying worms, right? How did that happen? So the most important thing, a personal statement, you're going to write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. You're going to do a bunch of, and you're going to show them to everybody and anybody you know for editing. And then you're going to save somebody. Everybody should have at least one friend who knows where commas go. Okay, I have one. And when I write something actually I have 2. When I write something really important, I send it to them because they're going to tell me where the commas go. So everybody should have one English major friend. And it really helps. They're a bit OCD about it. So find that person. And after you think it's finished, you send it to them. And they're going to comment about, not only does it make sense, but have you dotted every I and crossed every T? That's really important. So my experience with students and personal statements is they tend to not understand. It sounds silly, but I have students that don't understand their own personal story. I have a student who, I said, I've got, a 3.89. I said, great. So, what? Oh, well, and they starts talking to me and I find out the dude didn't learn to read till he was 14. I said, holy crap, that's your story, man. That's really important. That's something about you. And another story, it's like, I do really well and I want to be a neuroscientist. Great. Then I find out by talking and kind of pulling it out that this particular person came to this country in high school and didn't speak English. I said, that's part of your story. All right. So your personal statement, make sure that as many people as you can think of can help you write it. And if you feel like there's nothing special about you, then come in and I'll pull it out of you because you got a story, all right? You just have to find it and get it out. And then you get your English major friend to edit it for you and put those commas in the right place. Okay, let me see if I've forgotten anything. I think that's, and like I said, each university, some universities are blatant about saying, how will you add to the diversity of our campus, okay? Just remember, diversity doesn't just mean race and ethnicity. It means, are you the first generation in the country? Are you first generation in college? Are you, I don't know, you've spent 2 years working for Habitat for Humanity. I mean, there are other ways, so don't feel like you have nothing to say there. Is there anything you have personal say? Okay, the only thing I know is that I help with them, Lindsay. Probably we could do a future workshop because I got a student I have not mentioned yet. There's for the STEM people, and that includes social behavior and economic science. The cream of the crop graduate, the thing that will make you famous, is called the National Science Foundation Graduate Fellowship, Graduate Research Fellowship, GRF. UF only gets about 15 a year. They're very prestigious. And there's a guy in, oddly enough, environmental engineering who teaches a class in the fall on how to apply for these things. This is something that's due, I believe, somewhere around in the later fall. But the students who are applying this year are already working on their stuff, and he helps them and you take the class. And I had a student last year, he's getting a Ph.D. in biosciences. He's the one I told you about who learned how to read English when he was came to high school. He got into every school but one that he applied to. He got the NSF. He's got a really good, I could probably track him down, although he's probably moving to where he's going, Pennsylvania, I think. Maybe we can put something together on personal statements, but I have read and helped on a lot of them. I'm willing to do that. Is there first generation grad school? You know, why not? You know, if that's part of your story, to say, you know, my parents have instilled the, you know, love of education or something, or, you know, my parents, you know, have raised me real well, but I want to be part of that 2%. You know, you don't say it quite that way, but sure, you point out that you would be the first in your family to earn a PhD. I would certainly say that. Okay, so let's go, let's see, what do we got? This is why we had to tape it, because most of the good stuff isn't on the slides, is it? All right, let's do another one. Oh yeah, here's a statement about, go back one. I want to see, did I forget anything? Okay, so these are the ones where you want your research mentor, you don't want your mother's best friend. Oh, internship. Let's say it's okay to use a boss if it's like an internship in your field, so you're a business major. Well, you wouldn't be going to PhD likely, but anyway, if you've done an internship and they can attest to the important things like diligence, motivation, reliability, smart, that's a good one. Graduate student research mentor, not so much, because they're not Dr. So-and-so. Teacher from A, bad. Postdoc, yes. So that was just a random sampling of things I have gotten rec letters from. Okay, now the next one we've already talked about. So here's a good one. Okay, so you got your hit list of who you want to apply to, all right? And let's say you got the top 5, maybe 8. You've identified faculty. Remember, you are not applying to the university or even the department per se. It's the faculty member you want to work with in that department. There are a few schools that will take you, and then after the first year you decide, but it's always good to say, I'm gonna use UF as an example, but you're not gonna apply to them, remember that part. So you're gonna apply to material science, right? But you have decided that Josephine Allen and Michelle Manuel and Lori Gower are your top 3, okay? So then what you do is you read as much as you can on these people. You read their most recent publications. So you get a really good idea on what they do. Now, presumably you've already done some research. That's like I didn't mention it, but it's a no-brainer that you want to do research before you decide to get a PhD, because if you do research and you hate it, you don't necessarily want a PhD, okay? So that's what you're going to, although I got a little secret. I'm not so fond of research. In my case, it was a very strategic move because for the job I wanted, I needed a PhD, and I'm an administrator, okay? So there are some, you know, I was very strategic and focused on that. But so we've picked out our three. Yeah, Lori Gower, you decide she's your person. And so you read what you can about her. Now let's say she does like she studies nature. Well, back in the old days, I don't know what she does now, but let's say she studies nature to figure out how engineering can learn something from nature. Might be called biomimicry, but I don't think so. It's bio something. Anyway, but you did your research in, I don't know, building bridges. Totally unconnected. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, hey, you know what? I did my research in building bridges, but I've been reading up on this area of bio something. And it's fascinating. And I feel like these are the things I learned building bridges, how to ask good questions, how to analyze data, how to, you know, figure out if the hypothesis is accurate. And I feel like I can those skills will translate into this new area. So you don't say, what I've done has nothing to do with what you do. You show them how the skills you have learned will help you move into the new area. Or if you're really lucky, you were already studying animals and engineering, and you can say, hey, I've been doing this for 2 years as an undergrad. This is perfect for me. But if you're in that position where you're moving into an area that isn't quite what you have had research in, that's okay. Just take out a higher level look at what you've done and take those higher level research skills and say, hey, this has prepared me to move over into this area, okay? And in that email, you know, say, I'm Allison Blankenship. I'm a rising senior at the University of Florida, majoring, I don't even remember your major, Allison. I'm gonna make you a, I don't know, what do you want to be? Chemist? You can be a chemist. And I've been doing research for 2 years in organic chemistry, something or other. I read your paper and so, and it's really the area I would like to pursue for my PhD. So you're telling them why you've picked them, but then you ask for something. And what you want from them is a follow-up. You want to say, I'm emailing you, I'm a prospective PhD student, and and would like to know if it would be possible to set up a phone or a Zoom call with you to discuss the possibility of me joining your research team. So you don't want to end the email without asking them for something. And what you're asking is, hey, can we meet and discuss this further? Okay, so you always want to end with ask, and that's your ask. Now, some people say, you know, what if there are 3 people in the same university in the same department? Okay, I'm okay with you contacting all 3 of them because you might not hear back from all of them. But you definitely want to be applying, because here's what happens. Once your paperwork gets cleared by the graduate school and goes over into the department, you want to have a faculty champion who wants you, okay? Because if there's a faculty member sitting and say, hey, I want Allie and my team, then guess what? That's gonna sway the department decision, okay? So, so the first contact is via email, okay? You don't email somebody at the very beginning of a semester because everybody's busy. You don't email at the end of the semester because everybody's grading. You kind of be careful, okay? You know, don't, and you don't, like, if 2 days later you haven't heard, you don't get antsy. You give them some time to process it, but it's okay to follow up. My favorite way to follow up is this. Let's say you emailed Dr. Gower and you haven't heard and it's been 2 weeks, okay? Then you call up Dr. Gower on the phone and you're not expecting her to answer. So you leave a message and you say, hi, Dr. Gower, this is Allie Blankenship. I'm just following up from the email I sent you on February 3rd, and I'm looking forward to the possibility of talking to you about graduate school. So you don't say, people actually have the nerve to email me and say, you didn't answer my email. And then it goes right in the trash, because why would I respond to somebody that rude? So make sure you don't do that, all right? So, but you're subtly, you're saying, hey, I'm just following up on an email, and And I look forward to hearing from you about the possibility of having a phone conference. Okay, so that's step one. Let's see what step two is. I think that's the next slide. Yeah, okay. Again, I told you at the end, you're going to ask for this, okay? I actually had to tell one kid to comb his hair before his video Zoom call, okay? So if you need to comb your hair before it, comb your hair, all right? You got to be real careful that everything on your resume you can speak to. They're most likely going to ask you about whatever research you've done. So you have to be real careful that you're very conversant. You do not put anything on that resume that stretches anything, because you will get caught. Do not make that mistake. I've seen that happen. Actually, it was somebody that I caught and I fried him. Don't be that person. And so what can you offer? Okay. And here's a trick when you're talking to somebody that you want something from. The less you talk, the better. Because people do not like gaps in conversation. So if you do all the talking and pick me, and they don't have a lot to chance to say anything. But if you sit back, answer their question and let a little pause, they're going to start talking more. And the important part is to remember another difference with the undergrad and grad, you're shopping for them as well. They're not only shopping for good students, but you're shopping for a good position, okay? So you want to have this conversation, hopefully video, where you can start getting a feel for this person and whether this is going to make sense for you, okay? So then maybe you get accepted. Maybe they accept you at that point, or maybe they haven't yet. Before you seal any deal, you do the best you can do to have a personal visit. Now, this was all pre-COVID, so it may or may not work, depending on how long the craziness lasts. But here's the thing about personal visits. The kid I mentioned who didn't learn English till he was in high school, he went to 8 or 9 campuses, and there was one that really rubbed him the wrong way. There was something about the climate, and I don't mean weather, that just gave him the creeps. And you don't know that until you get a chance, okay, to actually be there. Also, sometimes the people doing the most interesting research and the most charismatic people are the worst people to pick, okay? And you don't know that until you start poking around, because during a personal visit, you're going to meet graduate students of this person. Now, I will tell you, the graduate students make a hobby out of whining, okay? So yes, you're going to get whining. You just have to make sure it's not too much whining. And here's what you want to know. And these are not questions you come right out and ask. You kind of nose around and talk to the graduate student. Is how many PhD students did this person graduate in the last 2-3 years? If it's none, do not go in there unless they're brand new, and that's a whole nother set of issues. Let's say they graduate 1 a year. Okay, how many people are in this person's research lab? If the person has 15 graduate students, it tells you they're a money machine. It means they know how to get money and they will be able to support you. But it also means you're not going to get a lot of personal attention. Now, some people are very independent and don't want personal attention, and that's a perfect place. On the other hand, if you feel like you want more personal mentoring, that might not be the place. Another quote, but let's say a person has, I don't know, 1 or 2 graduate students, that's pretty small. The other hand, you would get more personal attention. So these are kind of things you can nose around and talk to the graduate student. And if in COVID world, if you can't visit, then I would at least try to set up a Zoom with the person's graduate students so you can try to find out. Oh, here's another really important question. How long those people, let's say the person graduates 1 a year. How many years does it take for them to graduate with this individual? If it's 5, good. If it's 6, okay. If it's 10, don't go there. Okay. So these are kind of things you can more easily find if you are there. But I think COVID, we can actually find this kind of stuff out by having a Zoom with graduate students. It's nice to have a conversation outside the hearing range of the faculty mentor. Now, I want to tell you about faculty mentors. They're not your best friend. You don't need them to be your best friend. You need them to help you get your PhD. It would be nice if you mostly liked them. There could be times you hate them anyway, even if they're nice people. It just is part of the course, But don't go in there thinking, oh, I could never, this person's not going to like some idealized version of what a mentor is going to be for 5 years. Okay. They're not going to be your best. They don't have to be your best friend. It might work out that way, but don't go into it thinking that's going to happen. Now, here's one other trick I have told students who have used it. Let's say, I don't know, you're from Miami. Now let's make it Georgia. Let's make it Atlanta. The person you want to work with is at Georgia Tech, right? So what you can do is be really clever and slightly devious and call them or email them. Say, hey, look, I'm going to be in Atlanta for some personal business on the week of the 12th. When I'm there, would it be possible to stop by and have a meeting with you? You don't have to tell them that you're lying about being in Atlanta for personal business, right? Just tell them you're visiting your cousin or something. But anyway, it's a way to get an appointment with somebody that you're dying to meet. And this works if you're like close enough, you could actually get there without too much trouble. Like Miami, Atlanta, you know, I've had students that have actually pulled that off and it works. So let's see, I'm looking at the, see, I don't know who wants to play at microbe interaction, but figure out where they're doing it, who's doing it, and what are the interesting people are, and that's really cool. Does this pertain to seeing graduate school fairs? Yeah, there are graduate school fairs. Sometimes graduate schools have, like for example, there might be at a professional conference or an undergraduate conference like National Council of Undergraduate Research, there would be a graduate fair there. And so, unfortunately, we have this Florida Undergraduate Research Conference every year that has a graduate fair, but we're going to be online. It's in February. I will post if they're going to, I know they're going to do the conference part, the poster sessions online. I don't know if they're going to try to do a virtual graduate fair, but I could certainly advertise that. But also you can call a university and say, I'm a prospective graduate student. Do you have visitation? So there's probably a weekend, you know, a 2-day event for anybody applying to a graduate school at a particular university. Usually you have to pay for this. Sometimes they will pay for you, but sometimes, and my attitude about that is, you know, invest in yourself. If you got to pay to get a ticket to get up to Tech, do it, if that's where you really want to go. So yeah, most of the fairs aren't independent. They are attached to another kind of meeting. Every spring, April, is the National Council of Undergraduate Research. When I find out if they're going to have a graduate fair virtual, I'll make sure that we post that. So yeah, but there are not standalone graduate fairs. UF actually has one, and since I really don't want you to apply to it, I wouldn't go, except for you might just get some good general information. So Allie, can you remind me that we're going to find, yeah, that's the Rights Union one. That's the one that the graduate school does that, the UF graduate school. So Allie, remind me that we'll see what we can find out about FERC and NCUR graduate fairs. And also maybe Abercam's, because if they're going to have, the best part is, see, there are upsides. If it's all going to be virtual, you can sit in your high school bedroom or Gainesville and attend, but you'd have to register for the conference. There are many self-funded PhD programs. Okay, Aaron, I don't know what self-funded PhD programs are, because in my book, you don't want to do that. And why would you do that? Allie, can you scroll? Wait, let me see if I can see your response.
I agree. I don't want to do that.
Is that you, Aaron?
Yes.
Why do you think they're self-funded programs? Who told you that?
Well, I just can't. Well, right now I'm looking at specifically somebody at USF that's doing research, and he's been there since January and has a really small lab. And on the lab website, he says something along the lines of, it is your responsibility. I actually don't like the way it's worded, and I don't really understand why he worded it this way. It's your responsibility to use the funding resources that USF can offer. But when I go to see, like, what kind of funding is available, it's really difficult to find. I might end up having to contact the department directly, but it's just, I can't really
find. It means they're new and they have no money.
Right.
That is a very high risk place for you to go. I would look for a more established place. Usually what happens though, and when I say they're going to pay your PhD, a lot of schools will pay, the department isn't responsible for paying the first year of stipend and tuition waivers, but then the faculty has to pick up the remaining years. And that's why it's important to find a faculty member with money. Because if you get that first year from the department and then that faculty member hasn't gotten any grants that hit, you're screwed. Right? So there are exceptions, but it's a very high risk thing to do, to go with somebody who's brand new and doesn't have a grant record and a publication record. Okay.
Right.
Oh, now, when should we start emailing, reaching out to departments? I would be doing this the summer before my junior year. Best time to start applying. BSMS, they have go to the website and check, because a lot of times you have to apply before your junior year, and they may or may not, in the real world, they would require GREs, you probably won't. So each department's going to have different rules on that. Graduate school abroad, that's fascinating. Is it work the same for, okay, here's the cool thing. I am a total fan of international experience. The vast majority of international experiences, they're going to not pay you. Okay, the money's going to go to citizens of their own country. Now, I do have a student who managed to find a master's in something medical related, I can't remember, in Barcelona. It was a one-year master's and they paid him to do it. So obviously there are exceptions, but if you're going to go abroad, I would look into if it's the best place in the world, it's like the Max Planck in Germany or something. See, do they fund foreign students? On the other hand, there's different kinds of money. At UF, we pay foreign students to come. Okay, so I guess it depends on the school, because we fund, the majority of our graduate students in engineering are foreign students, and we do give them stipends and we do pay. So just I know in Canada it's all messed up depending on where you are. So you're just going to have to check with where you're looking at. Will they fund it or not? And my rule of thumb is I wouldn't do it if they wouldn't fund me. If they would fund me and I could get a degree from Max Planck in Germany somewhere, heck, I would do it. That's just me. So there was another one about most programs will take you directly into a PhD program, but some will say, oh, no, you had to get a master's first. And you say, okay, but I'm here for the PhD, but I will do that. And the reason is they take you more seriously if they know that your end goal is the PhD and not the master's. And like I said before, you might get accepted to a PhD program, but after the 2 years, you do some exams and then you get your master's. So it's all different, but most students go directly into a PhD program. Okay, let's see where else. See if we have anything left. I don't know. We did that. Yeah, okay, I already did this publication record, because you know what? That, Aaron, is your evidence that they have money, okay? If they're not publishing, they don't have money, scary. We already answered these. And assess climate does not mean the weather. Assess climate means, are you comfortable on their campus, okay? Let me see that last one. Several university tree painters employed in positions. Yeah, if you can get a stipend and tuition, don't forget you want to ask for tuition also. So if you get a tuition, what do you call it? Tuition waiver and a stipend, you're good, okay? If you get a stipend, but you have to pay tuition, then you got to decide if that's what you want to do, okay? All right, let's see what else we've got. I don't know if we got anything else. Let's see. Yeah, questions. All right, so if anybody, I'm sorry?
I was going to say, we have one about MD PhD programs.
Okay. Okay, I'm only laughing because if I had a quarter for everybody said they want an MD PhD, I could have retired several years ago. Okay, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is just for straight MD, the average age getting in is 24, 25, right? So doesn't mean you can't get into medical school right out of bachelor's, but it means An awful lot of people have gone out and done something interesting before they've applied, and they're your competition. That's like 100-fold for MD, PhD. Okay. They're older and they've done something. And by something, it might be, yeah, that's the one, Valerie, that's the one Adrian got. So, yeah, Adrian got that. He's just finishing now. And by the way, so Adrian is pre-med. He got a bachelor's, then he got a Fulbright, which means he's in a very rarefied group of special people, okay? Then, he spent a year doing research in Barcelona, and then he went down the street and found that they were gonna pay him to do a master's, and guess what? He's starting Yale in the fall in a medical school, okay? Now, Philip, he did a 2-year master's in medical something or another in Oxford that he got as a scholarship. And now he's actually going to start an MD PhD program. So if you're aiming for MD PhD, sure, you can apply as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old senior. However, you might consider what else could I do to make myself more competitive for that. One thing several of our students have done even for medical school is an accelerated bachelor's and master's in public health. Philip did that. No, Muna did that, and so did she's finished her medical school, and also another student did this and got into UF. This is a program where you start taking master's in public health programs as your senior year, and then after you graduate, you have another 1.5 years left. And so it's an accelerated master's in public health. If you go online and look, you'll see there are 5 areas. You could get one in epidemiology. You could get one in social stuff, public health management. All right. So, so some students enhance their ability to get into an MD program by getting an MPH. But MD PhD, that would be great. It took Philip 3 years after bachelor's and a master's degree from Oxford, and that got him in. So go for it, but you're going to have to be very competitive. You know, think about how you're going to be competitive. Good time.
I have a question about grad school application waivers and financial assistance
Yeah,
during the
funny
process.
thing you should ask, because I just looked that up yesterday. I looked up if certain programs you're in, like McNair or LSAM, there are just a few programs that have application waivers. So if you believe you're in a program that might be eligible, then you ask, okay? Same goes for GRE. If you're in a Ronald McNair program, which is a program to help underrepresented minorities get into graduate school, they will waive GRE or a reduced fee, and they don't have to pay for graduate applications. So you have to be in some program that will let you get one, okay? And if anybody's sitting here thinking, hey, I'm an underrepresented minority that wants to get a PhD, you could email me offline, and you can't be a senior already. If you're a maybe rising junior or younger, they have applications every fall. They only have 20 students. It's a very small program, but I have it in with the person who runs it, so I can help you with that information. And then there was another one about when should you ask for letters. You ask for letters. So the world's different. Right now I wouldn't, because it's kind of like summer vacation, because summer B just ended and fall isn't starting until the 31st. Don't ask anybody during vacation. So wait till like the 2nd week of school or 3rd week, and contact them and say, I'm going to be applying to graduate schools. You know, would you be comfortable writing a recommendation letter for me? And the due dates will likely be in, and let them know. And here's a hint. If somebody is even waffling about can they do it, you don't want a letter from them. I only once got asked to do a letter by somebody that is the last person on the planet I wanted to write a letter for, because I only write letters for people that I can, like, say they walk on water, and I could not say that of this individual. And man, I had to stop. She just did not get the hint that I was not the best person to write one for her. And I was being real passive aggressive and not telling her outright. And finally she got the hint and went away. So yeah, So many work in the field for a year. Kiana, what's your major? I need, as Rick, yeah, I want Kiana to tell me what field, what department would you be applying to?
Microbiology.
Microbiology for PhD? Heck no. Here's what I would do. I would, assuming that, okay, you got to look and see, am I competitive? So look and see what you've done for research, and look and see what you've, how your GPA is and how you're doing. And if you feel like you're competitive, I would go for it, because guess what? If you don't get in, then you can work a year and apply. Well, you know, why not? But working a year, it would have to be something that would make you more competitive, okay? So you would have to see if you could find yourself a research job in microbiology, and then that would make some sense. So I would only postpone. Here's the other time here's the time I do like masters. I had a student in chemical engineering. He was in transfer to materials. His GPA was not great. So my advice to him was stay at UF and get a master's. Prove to them that you're better than your GPA. And he did that, and then he went on to get his PhD in material science, okay? So masters can help you, help if you have not the strongest GPA undergrad for what, like say you screwed up completely as a freshman or something. So that's a good way, but I would only not go for it if you feel like you have to help your resume along, because you can always do it again. Okay, so I think that is how I would do that.
Dr. Donnelly, just real quick, I see that a lot of people are starting to
yeah, it's
have
4,
to leave.
It's 4:12. So at any point, if you guys got to go for it, and I'll stay on a few more minutes if anybody has another question. How's that sound?
That sounds great. And I just wanted to let everyone know, in case you do have to leave, I sent a form for a follow-up survey. So please do fill that out before you leave, so that we have your email address to be able to send you all of the information from this workshop, as well as follow-up information.
Okay.
But we'll keep going.
Stay on for like 5 more minutes if people have questions, but if you got to go, and you can always follow up with an email, or you want to send me your statement, I'll read it. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye, Zach.
So Dr. Donnelly, I had a question someone sent privately about what your thoughts would be on if you get a master's first and then want to do a PhD abroad.
That's interesting. Why would you do that? I think I would just, I don't know if you need the master's to get into a PhD program abroad that you want, because maybe they require it. I don't know the European system as well. So I would see, do I need to have the master's first? And if I do, sure. If I don't, I wouldn't. Now the PhD program in Europe, I didn't mention this, totally different than the United States. United States, you get in and you take 2 years of classes while you start doing your research. Europe, you just go right into research. You don't mess around with 2 years of classes. So it's a whole different system. But you know, they might require you to have a master's to get in which case, sure. Otherwise, I don't know. Let's see. If you decide a master's special, okay, here's what I want you to do, Dane, if you're still here. I want you to do the backward. I want you to say you want a PhD, and then 2 years in, if you change your mind, say, you know, can we just turn this into a master's and then I'm going to go. And the advantage to that is they've taken you seriously as a PhD student. You're not lying, because you don't know for sure if you want to do it until you're in it. And so, and then you've probably gotten funding. So I would probably go the PhD route, and get the master along the way, and then yeah, I would do that. But I would hope that while you are doing that, you have an open mind for staying and being the boss, because we all want to be the boss, right? So we need to be the PhD, right?
Dr. Donnelly, the previous question regarding a PhD abroad,
Yeah.
they specified that they were thinking about doing the combined master's program, and they were wondering if that would be a good avenue for it.
Sure, why not? combined masters at UF are like a no-brainer. It's cost-effective, time-effective. You know, if you could stay one more year and have Bright Futures pay for most of it, you know, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I will say personally, I've looked into doing combined and it's not available for every degree. So do be sure there's.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to see. I know they have them in engineering and I don't know where else they have them.
Mm-hmm. And some degrees they have it for one specialization of it and not for others. So. Yeah.
Also that the combined bachelor's MPH is a really cool thing too. Mm-hmm. That again, if you can do that in half the time, it's not a bad idea. It's more like 2/3 the time, I think.
Also, if anyone wants to ask a question verbally, you're welcome to do that as well.
Yes. So, hi, Suthrika, you're welcome. Okay, is Dr. any chance to set up a quick one-on-one? Yeah. So here's what you do. Can't see. Andreas, shoot me an email. Sadly, the rumor is we're going to go back and open the office Monday. And we're going to be opening the office in an empty building because the building's not open. So we are going to be so bored and lonely that I would be more than happy to set up one-on-one Zooms. So, and I'm pretty wide open. So go ahead and shoot me a date and time and I'd be happy to set one up with you. Sure. Okay. We good?
I have, and I know you already addressed my question, but I still
Sure.
want to clarify a little more. So you had said that the person that whose research I'm interested in probably doesn't have funding. What does the progression from a new PI to someone who is well funded and has many students,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Yeah.
Yeah, depending on the university. This is a person at UCF, right?
A USF.
Which one?
USF.
USF.
I mean,
okay,
yeah.
So to put in perspective, UF has about just under 800 million in research dollars a year, okay? USF, which is the second in the state, is about 400 million. So you're not comparing apples and oranges here, okay? And that's, but generally at UF, if they hire new faculty, they get a package. The package usually includes a graduate student, okay? And then the setup of the lab. But then that person has to spend every waking moment writing grants to get money to fund graduate students. And so that makes it a real difficult place for a new person to be, okay? Unless this new person is a superstar that somehow as a graduate student got published in Science or Nature, okay? So this person is already at a lower ranked, significantly lower funded research-wise institution, and they're new. And, you know, I would tell you to stay away and find somebody who says, Erin, I'm going to pay you a 25, I don't know what your field is, but 25K stipend and tuition waiver. The first is going to come. The letter is really weird. It'll say the department will do that and it's going to be up to the faculty. But that's why you've made connections with that faculty, to know that that faculty member has a graduate student that's going to graduate in a year, so that money can shift to you, that kind of thing, right? So the other thing sounds very risky to me. I have had students that went to places at UF and the department covered them for, after 3 years of PhD program, they were dumped because the person had no money and they had to scramble, and no one should have to do that. That's just not right. Makes me mad when faculty do that. The guy,
thank you.
Actually, he died, so he's gone. So, yeah, Valerie, yeah. So don't go there, Erin. What field are you in?
Plant science.
Are you a plant guy? There's got to be a better place, okay?
Oh, for sure. Just looking.
I should have known you were the plant guy. You got one of those bromeliads or something behind you.
No, it's purslane.
There you go. Okay. All right. So if anybody else wants to, what are your thoughts about doing the combined and pursuing patient finishing BS? Okay, I can't read that. Zarik, perhaps? What department? It matters.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. What is that? Something. Oh, Virgin Islands. How come you have a Virgin Islands sign?
Yeah, I'm from the British Virgin Islands.
Okay, wait. Are you already at UF?
Yes, I am.
And you're an undergrad?
Yes.
Are you in my dual degree engineering program?
I am not, unfortunately.
Okay, so here's the thing. I got about 6 kids in a dual degree engineering program and we get together once a month. You need to come to that if you're Virgin Islands.
I'd be happy to.
Exception. All right, what field are you?
Mechanical engineering.
Oh yeah, you could do if you're doing, you got really good grades and you want to go get a PhD, just go apply. Just go for it. But Zariq, if you want to, like, you should definitely touch base because I should hook you up with the other guys from, they're all engineers. Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of getting started if you can. But if you feel like you need the master's, the extra year to beef up your resume and your GPA, then you do it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be sure to touch base with you about
Yeah, we haven't met over the summer, but in its academic year, we meet, sometimes we eat. Back in the old days, we got to go out to eat. I don't guess we're going to be able to do that in the fall. But again, what your field is?
Mechanical engineering.
Are you paying out-of-state tuition?
No, I'm from Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just grew up there, but I was originally born in Florida, so that's why I get in-state.
Yeah, so you got screwed because of that. Yeah, dumb rule. Okay, all right. Yeah, yeah, and given that you're from, okay, so did you grow up in Virgin Islands?
Yeah, so I spent most of my life there.
Yeah, see, that's part of your story. You got a good story, man. Assuming you're okay. What year are you?
I'm a 4th year, so I transferred from Broward College down in Fort Lauderdale, and I only spent 1 year here so far.
So you got one to go? You have 1 year to go?
Yeah, so in the fall, I'm going to be a senior, but I'm thinking about taking an extra year just because I'm a transfer.
Okay, and are you doing research yet?
Not as yet. I'm looking into it. But
okay, no, we still need to talk. We need to get you into research, and I got another program that you're eligible for. I can put you in, okay? So you got to email me, okay? Because I got another small program that a couple of the other UVI guys are in. So I'm the queen of that program, so I can put you in it, okay? It was either pick him up or let him lick my legs. It's driving me nuts. Pick him up. All right, so Zariq, I'm looking forward to seeing you, okay?
Dr. Donnelly's the queen of every program, so you're in good hands.
No, just a few. Just a few.
Most of them.
Yeah, but I do have a special Virgin Islands program, which is one of my thing I'm most proud of, actually. So
I hear that you hate CURBS. That's what I heard from that message right there.
Hey, CURBS, for years I said you were the best organization on campus, and then you win the campus award, so I was right.
Apology accepted.
I said it for years before you got official, Okay, cool. That's hilarious. All right. Are you allowed to apply to MA and PhD program in the same graduate school? Why would you do that? Why would you just not apply? So who is that? Okay, I don't know how to say that. I'm not sure which is the first name and which is, can you like pop up so I can see your face and tell me if it's, is it Nabi?
It's Navia.
Nabia. Okay. All right. Why would you do that? What field are you in?
If you want to apply to graduate school for education.
Oh, okay. So my PhD is in education, by the way. And when I applied for, here's the interesting part, that is probably one of the fields they're going to want a master's. Because when I applied for a PhD, I had a master's, but not in education. So they accepted me to the PhD. We'll take you, but you have to take 20 credits of classes before you're official. So basically what they did was slap on enough credits that I could have essentially gotten a second master's, but I didn't bother. So that was what UF did. They took me into the PhD. But in education, you tend to work your way through the system. And master's and PhD at the same are very common. I wouldn't stay for all of them, but but yeah, sure, master's and PhD, yeah. A lot of time, okay, so some schools for PhD in education, you have to have had some classroom experience. So I actually had to go out and work in high school for a couple of years so that I could, and then I ended up at UF, which didn't care, but I'd be happy to talk to you about education anytime, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's what I do. PhD in micro, how much research is good at, who knows? It's, let's see, Sydney, what year are you?
I'm going to be a rising senior. I was also a transfer student, and I was unable to get research this year, partially because new environment, and then also, of course, the whole COVID thing happened.
Yeah.
What I have actually managed to get was, before I transferred, I was actually able to get into an organic chemistry lab of all places, and I've been actually doing some of that work this summer.
That's
but I don't
excellent.
really have any microbiology related lab experience.
Okay. We probably should try to find you something for this year. Let's do this. On the CUR website, go to the link that says CURBS and go down to Peer Mentor and make an appointment to talk to, it's Zoom now or something, but with a peer mentor and tell them that you have some different experience, but you would like to get into some microbiology. And, but also the first thing they're going to tell you to do is go to the microbiology webpage and open up the faculty page. And then you got to open up every one of them and read up on what they do and make yourself a hit list of people that you think would be interesting. Then when you make your appointment for your peer mentor, say, okay, I got my hit list. Now what do I do next? And they can help you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Directly related with you. If you're currently in an oh wait, something just covered it up. Hold on a second. Underrelated lab. Michelle, what year are you?
I'm a rising junior.
I'm sorry, what? Rising what?
Junior.
How long have you worked in what field?
I want to do like marine sciences, and this one is like, the one I'm in is like environmental toxicology with fish embryos, so it's kind of related. But not completely.
And what's the one you want?
Marine sciences, like ecology and all that.
Okay, so are you currently doing research now?
I'm writing a manuscript, and I will be doing more in-lab research in the fall.
Okay, but okay. So maybe what you do, because it sounds like you're kind of committed to somebody for fall.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Do the same thing I just mentioned to the other student about peer mentors, but you go find some people in marine biology that you might think would be cool, right? And you try to set that up for spring. And halfway through fall semester, you go to the people that you're currently with and say, hey, this has been a great experience. I really like it, but my research interests have changed. And so next semester, I'm going to be moving over to this. Wait a minute. Did you say rising junior?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you still have one more senior year. Yeah. I would swap out in the spring of junior year and plan on sticking with something through spring, summer, and fall that you're more interested in, but you are very grateful to these other people for helping you. You don't leave them in the lurch. You finish off this semester with them, or if like halfway through the semester you get to an end point, that's okay too. But you want to give them at least half a semester heads up that as much as you appreciate them, that your research interests have changed and you're going to switch labs, okay? And that way, you don't burn a bridge. And you help them finish up and you don't leave them in the lurch. So you get a letter from them and then the new person too, right? So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions? Is everybody just hanging around to see what else the dogs do before we leave? Anybody have a dog they want to show off? Cat? Gerbil. Aaron, else?
I might, but right now I happen to be in a marine biology lab right now, so I'm
so
sending
you can
Michelle some stuff.
Who do you work with?
Dr. Julie Meyer.
Nice. What do you, and so they do
She does corals, but she's
Sweet.
also been doing seagrass microbiome. So I've been working
Yeah.
on seagrass microbiome since December. I was meaning to ask, what do you think the going back to doing research in person looks like, especially
Okay,
for
so it
undergraduate?
took all summer and a whole mess of meetings for us to finally get clarity on undergraduate research. And it came out great. I was so nervous. But here's the deal. It's up to the faculty. The faculty are more likely to accept back students they've already had than take new, but the faculty can take new. Their constriction is going to be, their constraint rather, is going to be size of their lab, because they can only have so much density, right? Like 1 per 150 square feet, right? Something like that. So a student will approach a faculty member and say, hey, can I come back? And the faculty member can either say no because I don't have room, or no because I'm immunocompromised, or sure. If they say sure, then you're going to get invited. You're going to get put in this research portal, and you're going to get an email. It says, hey, Aaron, answer these 2 questions. And it's basically, do you have COVID? Have you ever known anybody had COVID? Then you say no and no, and then you're going to get invited to be tested. Now, while it's your option to say no, my attitude is I would go do it because it'll probably make the faculty member more comfortable. And then once you get cleared, you'll get cleared to go in. So that's the system. So the good news is it's happening. The tweak is it's up to the faculty. And I got to tell you, I've had a lot of faculty who are on board with people being back. Oh, hello. So yeah, so it came out better than I was worried over the summer, sweating it, because first they brought in the postdocs and they had to bring in the graduate students, and then there was discussion about College of Medicine is less interested in freshmen and people coming in, but luckily the others are pretty open to it.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say, because my PI has a postdoc who's just leaving, 2 undergraduate students, and then like 2 other undergraduate students that like cycle through the lab. So I know that it's a little strained.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be like, they might have to do shifts, right? And with undergraduates, it always ends up being shifts anyway, because kids have different schedules. So it's not likely that 6 people can be in there at the same time. Okay. All right. So
Are there any other
Zarik,
questions?
yeah, Zarik, send me an email, okay?
I'll be sure to do that.
Yeah, because I've been working with UVI for like 10 years now. We have a bunch of people out in the world now, a bunch of engineers, but we only have a couple in graduate school. So, and I introduce you to one of them. She's in medical physics, but she got a degree in nuclear engineering. So, all right. Well, I guess we're probably done. You guys know where I live, and unfortunately, I'm going to be in a very empty, boring, cold building after Monday. So you can always come by. We're going to have some kind of scheduling system that I don't know yet. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Fun, guys. Have to do this again sometime.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Coming in.
My pleasure.
Don't forget to fill out the survey if you haven't yet.
I was